in the world that we're in now, even the world we were in before, where money wasn't tight, what we're seeing a lot of now is in connected TV, our clients really need to see some kind of tangible, validating kind of outcome in what their money's getting them. And the problem with connected TV is we haven't really figured out how to define performance because there are too many other questions that need to be answered first. And so we think that's really interesting. And as a result, the approach that we've taken is saying we need to strip back to the basics and understand what is it that a brand and an agency thinks that they want, and why are they thinking that? Are they transferring performance benchmarks from other screens to the big screen, or is there something else? And once we get to the bottom of that, we then need to understand, like, based upon what they want the outcomes to be, how do we then make sure that they delineate between success or performance in terms of delivery, completions and VCRs and that kind of thing, versus success? And really, performance wants to fall into that success bucket. And then it just starts at the top of the funnel down, awareness, consideration, intent, referrals, and activation or actual outcomes, buying, walking into the store, etc. And once that, again, is understood, we can then work with the client to go, well, how far down that funnel do you want to go? And then benchmark it accordingly. But we think that that's important. And one of the reasons performance is a difficult topic right now is because that delivery piece is getting muddled too much into performance, because that's where KPIs stand for, and the P being performance, but that should just be table stakes.
And when you present these ideas to others in the industry, do you get any pushback or friction, or how's the reception been, do you think?
We get pushback within the industry by our partners and friends who are aware that we're fairly outspoken about how we feel, and sometimes that isn't always good for everybody's pockets. But the brands and the agencies especially, who we're lucky enough to be engaged by, really do appreciate it. It can sometimes take a bit of rethinking at their end, because they won't have heard our position from that angle before. But it's typically welcomed, because at the end of the day, we're setting ourselves to a higher standard, putting a bigger red dot on our back, which we should be.
And I wanted to hear a bit more about your platform. You have a data-fed creative production. Tell us a bit more about what that involves.
Yeah, I mean, this is the side of the shop that I work on at Origin. So this is my sweet spot. I'm the creative guy, barely read and write. I love things that move. And when we built Origin's ad studio, we had to build it from the ground up, because we wanted to be able to create creatives that were truly dynamic and flexible and agile, not just overlays, that can be different based upon someone's DMA or their geo, but actually have the core message, the story within that creative, whether it's an ad that we do in the Origin Ad Studio or a native asset that we run through our native CTV product Slingshot. We wanted the actual messaging within that to be unique and relevant to the household it's in, and that requires being able to ingest, classify, and then feed certain data into the creative itself, and then have that spit out as an animated file.
Well, I was hoping you could elaborate a bit more on that. What does it mean for the user experience, a person watching television or CTV? How do they experience what you do?
That was one of the first things, actually, that we wanted to approach, because we thought it was the biggest problem. Something I said a couple of years ago, actually, at the Beat Retreat was a lot of time and attention and money goes into technology, quote, behind the glass. But where we thought it was really lacking was in front of the glass, in terms of the creative itself, because at the end of the day, that's what the person is seeing, right? And as a result, if you can actually really almost alarm them with something that isn't creepy, relevant or personal, right? And luckily there are ways to make sure we don't do that. But hang on, they're talking about the town that I live in, and they know the weather in my city, and they know today's date. Suddenly you've really got their attention, and that changes the game. because they now feel like they're being spoken to respectfully, but in a meaningful way.
Oh, that's really interesting. Just last question here about the idea of interactive on connected television. How do you approach that?
Again, we have a fairly different or strong opinion about that. We really try to respect the fact that the living room, right? And I'm a consumer, and every day at 6, I'll get a gin and tonic and a bowl of crisps, and like I'll sit down to watch TV because I'm done, I'm burnt out, and it really is the definitive lean back. And so we thought, well, getting someone therefore to necessarily interact on the TV is a tall order, and not necessarily the right time, place, or environment for that kind of thing to happen. But as a performance-based company, we do also know that we need to create a physical engagement. We have our vision that soon the TV should be a viable standalone e-commerce environment. And therefore, where we delineate is sort of the meaning of interactive, right? It's not interactive via remote requiring SDKs on your TV, but instead creating engagements and interaction via a second screen that they most likely have in their pocket. That to us is interactive. It's now just a twin screen experience, and it's also now happening in an environment that they are most used to spending their money with, or that they can feel more in control of. And that's really where we define engagement and interaction.